Islam, 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 and welcome to Moor's Heritage and History School. This is your host, Annie Ida, along with my co-host, who I'm not singing yet. Of course, I waited until the last minute to go and check. I was busy trying to pull up some more information to talk about on today's broadcast. So hang on for a minute while I go and see. Let's see. Is that you, Cujo?
Islam.
All right, Islam, Cujo, Adwa, Il. And we have Mizraim Aleph, Il.
Islam, peace and love, family. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, pardon me. That was my fault. I forgot to punch one. Peace and love,
That's
Moor.
all right. And let's
Glad to
see.
be here, though.
Yes, I'm looking for RVBey. I don't see her. Wonder where she is.
Oh, gosh.
Well,
Hold on.
I'm not seeing her right now, but we'll wait a few moments and see if she joins us. I mean, we'll.
She did say she was feeling some type of way today.
Yeah,
but
she did.
Yeah, I see what's up, though.
Yeah. And while we're waiting for her, we'll do what we normally do every broadcast. We'll just begin our show as usual. Islam Moors, thank you so much for joining Moor's Heritage and History School, Eyes Wide Open Blog Talk Radio Show on this, 6th of October, 1435 Moorish calendar year, and 2015 Christian calendar year. I want to send a big shout out to our internet listeners. The chat room is open. Big shout out to our family listening over in Great Britain, South Africa, Japan, the Netherlands, Venezuela, Brazil, Mexico, Cuba, and the family that we have yet to connect with. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much, callers, for calling in every week, filling up the phone lines before we even get the show started. Thank you so much for joining us, lending us your energy, participating in the discussion as we all uplift fallen humanity together. All right. So now, usually what we do before we begin the show is we make a public announcement of Moors that have been kidnapped and are being held hostage. What that means, and you are going to find this out to be true, as we continue along in this freeing of the mental slavery of all people, but especially the Moors of Al-Murak, we have Moors who are being kidnapped off of the street by private corporations who are in disguise. That would be your Title 241 and 242, who are disguised as government. That would be your Title 918, I believe it is, or 912, impersonating a government official. They are in disguise as though they are, in fact, government when they are not. They're kidnapping the people off of the street, and they are literally holding them for income, and they are making a demand of income of the people. And if the income is not, which is extortion, given over, then the people are put in prison until the income is the ransom, because now we're talking about a ransom, until the ransom is either paid or until until whenever they feel like releasing them. Now, I'm saying this, and I'm sure there's probably some people who are thinking, oh, this can't be true. It is absolutely true, and if you go on the World Wide Web and you Google any of these counties, city, town, township, boroughs, they make no bones about letting you know when they were established, that would be as a company, and when they were incorporated. It's right on the Internet. They're not even trying to hide it. The prophet told us to study, 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 because if we would do some studying, we would know that the Constitution was written to protect us from the violation of all employees operating through corporations. This is why, but because we are not studying, you know, I mean, there's some of us who are studying, but there's a vast majority of us who are still asleep. We're not studying. So they're using us to literally move what you could call, what do they call it? Our people always saying we need to get involved in economic development. We are the economy. We are the economic development. We are the resources. That's why they call us human resources. Anyways, so we have our brothers and sisters who have been kidnapped and are being held hostage by these corporations who have come in disguise as counties, which county, city, town, township, borough, counties and city, literally, if you go into the Black Law Dictionary, means a corporation. And municipal means a Roman venue. So they're letting you know, as the prophet said, if you did a little bit of studying, just who they are. So we have our sister RVBey, who was kidnapped through a joint venture between Memphis and Shelby Corporation under the purview of Tennessee. We have Dawood Ill, who was kidnapped under the purview of Arkansas. Now, if we don't have the county that was involved in the kidnapping, the county corporation, we only make mention of the Union State. And when we say purview, they have the obligation of overseeing that all people, per the American Constitution, 1791, domestically and foreign, and that's right in the Constitution. They're supposed to protect the people from foreign and domestic invasion. So if we do a little bit of study, we'll find out that we've been invaded by foreign corporations that make no bones about letting us know they're foreigners. They got their whole history of how they were established and subsequently incorporated right on the World Wide Web. All right, so then we have Amir Muslimin Ill and Kusu Ra Kush Bey under the purview of Missouri. We have Asar Patan Amin Ra Bey under the purview of Ohio. Jeremy Paler Ill, Terry Thorne Bey, Jamie Cal Brooks Bey, Joseph Canaday Ill, Kushamir Bunch Ill, Emmanuel Billings Bey, Yasin Khalik Alamin Ill, and Michael Curry Bey, all kidnapped under the purview of North Carolina. We have Noble Crisco Ill under the purview of New Jersey. We have a Messiah Aziz Ill and Crystal Ill, kidnapped through a joint venture between Mercer, Freehold, and Trenton Corporation under the purview of New Jersey. We have Eldridge Teron Fisher Ill and Marquis Sevion Ill under the purview of Indiana. We have Solomon Ill Bey and Mumi Abu Bey under the purview of Texas, and William Barrett Ill under the purview of Virginia, Che Ray Bey under the purview of West Virginia, Thomas Lee Bey under the purview of California, and let's see, Victor Eduardo Alaye Juarez Ill, kidnapped by Holland Corporation under the purview of Georgia, Patricia Bey and her infant baby, kidnapped by Atlantic Corporation under the purview of New Jersey, and Malik Ilbey, also kidnapped by Atlantic Corporation under the purview of New Jersey. These are the Moors that have been kidnapped and are being held hostage for income. If you have a family member or someone you know of who has been kidnapped and you would like them added to this list so that we can make a public announcement of the same, please send an email to MHHS-Eyes-Wide-Open@gmail.com. All righty. So let's see. I do not see Roz. I'm not sure if she's going to be joining us today. Liz, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Like I said, she was feeling some type of way.
All right.
Like she really was not feeling 100%.
All right.
And she was trying to get her rest earlier. She didn't. She was like, she really need that. So she might not. I can't call it, but like I said, she's feeling some type of way, and we might just have to hold that down so she can recover and feel a lot better.
Yes.
I mean, it's no life-threatening situation. It's just one of those things.
No. I understand. I understand. Let's see. Before we get started, all righty. All right. Before we get started, let me go through the subject matter of today's broadcast. But before we get started, let me just I'm calling it a syllabus, and it is, I guess, because sometimes we give definitions and bits and pieces of information, and we may even send out, for example, if we go over a document or something we find in the congressional records, we will send it out to those people we have on email. So if you would like to be added to the email so that you can get these syllabus, so you can get the syllabus for each broadcast, send an email to MHHS-Eyes-Wide-Open@gmail.com, and in the subject line put syllabus. And we will put in the subject line add to mailing list, and we will add you to the mailing list so that going forward you will receive the syllabus for each broadcast. All right. So today's broadcast, it actually came about because of some information that I received, and it was personal because it was some things that my father was going through in relation to the passing of his wife. And one of the things that I learned, and I had heard this before, and I don't know if others had heard this, but not too long ago, there was this, people were being told, Moors were being told to go to the probate court. Yes. Go to the probate court. And in going to the probate court, you were supposedly supposed to be getting, that was your way of getting back your estate. Don't ask me why somebody thought that you were going to be going to a foreign corporation to get back your Moorish estate, and that made sense to somebody, but it did. And I intuitively knew that was not a way to go, because to me, in my personal opinion, felt that you were going to a foreigner once again and asking for your stuff, and, this is your house. So, of course, I couldn't bring myself to do that. But it turns out that, in my family, and it seems like there's one in every family, my father and brothers, interestingly enough, it seems to be the males in my family who just are content to remain asleep and go through what is called this probate process, where you are literally petitioning, it seems, to a complete stranger for your stuff. Complete stranger for your stuff. So, some discussion had gone on, and I came home, and I was just turning it over in my head, and I said, let me go to the Black's Law Dictionary and look and see what this, probate and probate court means. So now, like I said, some of you may have heard of the probate court, and some may have been directed to go there to, like I said, to have their estate returned for some unknown reason. However, as Prophet Noble Drew Ali has advised us to study, question to ask is, have you researched in the Black's Law Fourth Edition Dictionary what probate and probate court mean? So I'm going to provide you with the definition out of the Black's Law Fourth Edition of not just court of probate, but also probate. Now, I apologize, I didn't put down the page number, but trust, if you go to your fourth edition, it's in there. Court of probate. The definition reads, in English law, the name of a court established in 1857 under the Probate Act of that year, to be held in London, to which court was transferred the testamentary jurisdiction of the ecclesiastical courts. By the Judicature Acts, this court is merged in the High Court of Justice. Now, before I go on further, I will say this. If anyone is diligent enough to go and research some of these county corporations, what you're going to find, if you go back enough, is that they were initially established as parishes. Now, I believe in Louisiana, they do call them parishes. They don't call them counties. This is I believe, I looked at a few, and it didn't dawn on me until I was talking with somebody from that area, and they said like, the New York parish, and I was like, what are you calling that? And they said parish, and I was like, do you know what a parish is? So anyway, this initial portion of the Court of Probate definition is telling you that this whole probate, a religious process, ecclesiastical, it's an ecclesiastical court. Now, if you read the Constitution, it says no religious test will be required. So that means that the Constitution and the laws of this land and the activity of the people is never supposed to be based on anyone's religion or administered based on religion. All right? So let me read the next part of the definition. In American law, a court having jurisdiction over the probate of wills, the grant of administration, and the supervision of the management and settlement of the estates of descendants, including the collection of assets, the allowance of claims, and the distribution of the estate. In some states, now the key word right there is states. In some states, probate courts also have jurisdiction of the estates of minors, including the appointment of guardians, and the settlement of their accounts and of the estate of lunatics, habitual drunkards, and spendthrifts. And in some states, these courts possess a limited jurisdiction in civil and criminal cases. They are also called in some jurisdictions orphans courts and surrogates courts. So you see, in this, now this is to be American law. That's not American law because that is absolutely not in harmony with the American Constitution. But we'll analyze it for the validity of it. Now, right in this paragraph, they're telling you that, first of all, the probate courts can only have jurisdiction over states. And Moors cannot be members of the state. So right away, they're letting you know that's not for you. They also let you know that they have jurisdiction over minors. All right? They can be appointed as guardians. They can settle the accounts of, and considered a lunatic, habitual drunkard, or spendthrift, you're under their jurisdiction. And this probate court, was originally called the Orphans Court and the Surrogate Court. That was never the Moors. We're not orphans, never have been. And we certainly can't have any surrogate mother in the form of a fiction. Let's look at the definition of probate. It reads, originally, relating to proof. Afterwards, relating to the proof of wills. The act or process of proving a will. The proof before an ordinary, surrogate, register, or other duly authorized person that a document produced before him for official recognition and registration and alleged to be the last will and testament of a certain deceased person is such in reality a judicial act or determination of a court having competent jurisdiction. Did you hear that? Having competent jurisdiction. Establishing the validity of a will. Also, the copy of the will made out in parchment or due form under the seal of the ordinary or court of probate, and usually delivered to the executor or administrator of the deceased, together with a certificate of the will having been proved. In American law, now a general name or term used to include all matters of which probate courts have jurisdiction. In the Canaan law, now Canaan law would be your ecclesiastical law, probate considered of probatio, the proof of the will the proof of the will by the executor, and approbatio, the approbation given by the ecclesiastical judge to the proof. The term is used particularly in Pennsylvania, but not in a strictly technical sense, to designate the proof of his claim made by a non-resident plaintiff when the same is on book account, promissory note, etc., who swears to the correctness and justness of the same, and that it is due, before a notary or other officer in his own state. Here we go, qualifying words. Also of the copy or statement of such claim filed in court with the jurat of such notary attached. Common and solemn form of probate. Here we go. In English law, now remember, this is America. This is not England. There is really no place called England. England, when you see the word England or English, what they're talking about is when the modern Europeans slowly call it, infiltrated Great Britain, the nobles of Great Britain. Nobles of Great Britain are not called English. The what do you call them? The offspring of modern European women, they are called English. All right? So anyways, let's continue. Common and solemn form of probate in English law, there are two kinds of probate, namely probate in common form and probate in solemn form. Probate in common form is granted in the registry without any formal procedure in court upon an ex parte application made by the executor. Probate in solemn form is in the nature of a final decree pronounced in open court, all parties interested having been duly cited. The difference between the effect of probate in common form and probate in solemn form is that probate in common form is revocable, whereas probate in solemn form is irrevocable, as against all persons who have been cited to see the proceedings or who can be proved to have been privy to those proceedings, except in the case where a will of subsequent date is discovered, in which case probate of an earlier will, though granted in solemn form, would be revoked. Now, this is a definition out of the Black's Law 4th edition dictionary. Now, one other thing that I was doing, because I started reading this and then I started asking myself, I want to also talk about who exactly does this apply to? Because we read things, and sometimes we will jump to conclusions prematurely. Now remember, this is talking about basically some way to get the estate individual. That's what it sounds like. But remember, this was in, it states in here that this court of probate was established in Great Britain under English law in 1857. That is 3-4 years prior to Congress adjourning in Nationality because of the dividedness of the Moors. So we have to look at timeline. Who exactly are they talking about? What exactly are they trying to say? Who does this apply to? Because remember, if you read your history, this is why we have to study our history, we have to go prior to 1492. How were things handled? They were handled by, under a state. But it wasn't, the word estate really rarely was used because it was everything was done by inheritance. Everything was done by inheritance. So you have to ask yourself, who are they talking about? Because if this is my family inheritance, I don't have to disclose nothing to you. This is our private family affairs, and I don't have to disclose none of it to you. So who are they talking about? And it's interesting. I'll tell you who they're talking about because people don't get it. When I was just sitting with my dad, it's so funny. It's amazing. Our people love to go to these attorneys. 9 times out of 10, the attorney is always a so-called Jew. Why do we put our trust in these so-called Jews when they've been monopolizing quite a bit of the economy of this land? Now, I say so-called Jews because the real Jew is the Jew-L. That would be the Moors. But they could never be an L, so that's why they call themselves the Jew. Hence the so-called Jew. But interestingly enough, I'm sitting at this table and I'm observing. I don't know why the universe has me going to this particular function. I have no say because, you know, a lot of times sons think, oh, I know it all. You women just need to sit down and we'll take care of this. But since it's not necessarily my affairs, I mean, it's my dad's affairs, and I know if I really want to just end this, I'll just put a claim on the land. I'm the heir. But I'm going to listen. You know, I'm going to listen because apparently I'm here to learn something. So, or see something. So I'm listening, and this guy is talking to my dad and my brother, and he says, this is a qualifier now. How do they qualify to take over the handling of the estate, which is really an inheritance and by law of nature belongs to mother? How do they get to take over the estate and administer it? Because like they said in here, mother ain't around, right? They be using us against each other so many times. Mother is not around. She's sitting right at the table, right? But since the sons are not acknowledging mother to be the true heir, and they acting like, well, this is my stuff, and I need to come up with a will, and I want to know how to protect my assets and how it's going to be distributed, and I want to sell the land. Now, they know as soon as the sons say, I want to sell the land, everything is out of order. They know it. But they got to get some other qualifications, because in here they say that this is orphans courts and surrogate courts, right? Why is it orphan courts and surrogate courts, and they changed the name to probate? How do they get control over the estate? Because mother is absent. So those sons, even though my dad is way older than me, they are orphans. Because they refuse to acknowledge mother. Then the other qualifier, I sat right there. I recorded some of the conversation. I'm going to listen to it to see if I recorded when he asked this question. How do they get to gain jurisdiction? Not just because they don't want to, because they're orphans. That's one part. But the other, they don't even know they're orphans. And they're in a surrogate court. So that means surrogate means substitute mother. Who would the substitute mother be? The probate court. Then they ask the clincher question. Are you a resident of such and such county? And they said yes. Yes. They said yes. Then we got jurisdiction.
Yeah.
Right? So then I go and I wanted to get this out, but even though we had put this out before, go to your Black's Law 4th edition dictionary, please, and look up the word person. Look up the word person. It's amazing. I was going to try and get it out so that we can talk about it, but maybe we'll talk about it next Tuesday. Maybe we'll talk about this definition that's in the Black's Law Dictionary of persons next Tuesday, because it says a county it is a person in a legal sense. Now, what legal sense would they be talking about? They'll tell you in this same extensive definition, because it says in here, and I was trying to find it to highlight it so I read it word for word. And I will find it in a sec. Here we go. It says, where is it? Oh, my goodness. I know it's in here. I'll find it in a second. But I'm just going to paraphrase some. Oh, here we go. Corporations are persons, as that word is used in the first clause of the 14th Amendment. So now, what they just told you is, anyone who alleges to be a resident is an absolute fiction. They are the type of person that is a corporation. You are that type of a person that is a corporation. They have jurisdiction over you. And how do they get you to acquiesce? You don't know. Look, the prophet said that he came to take us out of our mental slavery. How do we get out of that mental slavery? By studying. Don't take nothing for granted. Don't act like, oh, well, you know, I know that word. I learned that word in elementary school or middle school or high school. Trust and believe. You did not learn that word. Really, right. You did not learn that word unless you went to your book, Black's Law 4th edition dictionary. You went to your etymology dictionary and your dictionary prior to 1965. You did not learn that word. Trust me, you did not. So don't assume anything. Go and look up everything as if this is the first time you're looking at that word, because who knew persons meant corporations? Who knew?
Right.
Who knew that when you say, I'm a resident of such and such county, you're giving over jurisdiction and you're alleging to be a 14th Amendment person? Who knew? So this is why we have to, who knew that if you go into a so-called probate court, you're going into an orphanage surrogate court, and the surrogate is a surrogate mother, so you're going and asking mother permission, which is not even feasible in nature. You're going and asking a fiction. Can I have my stuff back? Order, it is ridiculous. And then I hate to say it, but you know what? If we want to be free, we really got to do a lot of humbling of ourselves. Because mothers, if we go back in our history, we will find out that all of this religious dogma, we started that. And we imposed it on a lot of beings. And some of those beings was our son. And we have to humble ourselves and recognize our part in that. But also we have to also know that our sons, you know, we started this stuff, but right now what's happening is the sons is continuing it because they don't want to bring mother back. And that's the only way everybody is going to be free. So we got to study all the time. And most importantly, we have to check ourselves because it's very easy for ego to slip in. Very easy. And as soon as ego slip in, things like this that we just sort of kind of broke down, we'll miss it. And we'll end up enslaving ourselves. And then the prophets say, I come to take you out of your mental slavery. He said, look, I brought you enough to save a nation. Now go out and save yourself. The only way we're going to save ourselves is if we put our ego on the back burner and really humble ourselves, because each and every one of us has in some way, shape, or form contributed to this mental slavery continuing. So we got to wake up. Islam?
Islam. Cool indeed. Indeed. If I could just add on to the concept of probate, and just like before I add on to the estate aspect of it, like if you look at the word, I don't know, I kind of see it proper in a sense, except for like the Supreme Court, even though like all of them are basically de facto operating now, or operating in a de facto status. I think that all courts now, or let me say instituted courts, to be specific, are probate courts, and I'll explain in that aspect. Because like you said, you know, you was mentioning about the information you had that was revealed to you and you just shared with us, that it mentioned orphans, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we know that the aspect of wardship and the whole reason why we even declare our nationality is to link back to the family of nations and to affirm that we're not in that orphan guardianship wardship status, like whether it be a municipal court, a district court, a state court, the Supreme Court. We always got to make that distinction that we're not under that orphanage. But I think that, or wardship, but I think that for the most part, even dealing with courts that are not claiming to be probate courts, it's still in the aspect, in the games that they play, it's still probate or probation. And I'll explain, right? The etymology of probation, and my reference here is page 1311 of the Webster's Unabridged 1936 dictionary. And it says here that it comes from Latin, and it means attesting, like a test, like a school test, like it's a test from probare to prove. So like probation, probate, all of this is a test. You know what I mean? Like you have to prove something, but to who? Right? So just to examine a little further, like the games they play, you know, even when you're on trial, it's a test. It's probation. You can't do certain things that you want to do because this test is going on in the background. You got to deal with this in a certain aspect. And in all law, you really don't. You really shouldn't be having to do that. Like, it's not for them to test anything because, one, we're not orphans or under wardship. So they don't even have jurisdiction to issue a test. You know what I mean? And who are you to test somebody anyway? But without consent. But I say that to say this. You mentioned back to English law. Oh, wow, it's a lot. It's a lot to go in on. But I'll just give this attestation from this record. And this is from out of John Bouvier's Institutes. Oh, excuse me. No, pardon me. John Bouvier's Concise Encyclopedia of Law, Francis Raw's Third Revision, page 2729. And it says, the proof of the will is a judicial proceeding and probate a judicial act. The party propounding the instrument is termed the proponent and the party disputing the contestant. It says in England, proof ex parte was called probate in common form, and proof on notice to the next of kin, proof of in solemn form. I'm going to stop right there before I go into anything else, because you're talking about solemn oath, solemnity, all of these things, right? And you also was mentioning how that the probate courts, quote unquote, are dealing with testamentary law, and how, quote, religion really didn't have anything to do with inheritance. But I think qualifying religious dogma doesn't have anything to do with inheritance. And correlating testamentary law and religious dogma, in a certain aspect, those who don't know how to read the Bible, you can consider that in the aspect, testamentary law, which in the aspect, can be disputed as far as inheritance, if you will. It's a big difference. And you pointed out something which we all know, you know what I mean? This is about the inheritance of woman, because the condition of the child is determined by that of the mother. So I just feel compelled to share a maxim from out of Henry Campbell Black's Law, Revised 4th Edition Dictionary, page 1238. And it says, omnis soraris sunt quasi unus eris je una hereditate. And what it means or translates to in English is that all sisters, let me say this again, all sisters, as it were, one heir to one inheritance, right? So being as though that, we're basically, because you got to remember, too, when you're talking inheritance, you look at these words, brother, sister. The etymology of sister means to cause to stand, to exist. You know what I mean? The etymology of sister is existence. So, like, when you say, if you don't honor your mothers and fathers, specifically your bloodline, whereas you were formed in the womb, it's hard to make a claim of inheritance, and this is where the orphanage comes in, because the whole aspect of the probate is to cut off being successful. And when I say successful, I don't mean how many millions of Federal Reserve notes you have. I'm talking about the line of descent, succession, to pass down. So now they got it to whereas you could have 5, 6, 7 siblings, brothers or sisters, you know what I mean? Say you got 3 brothers, 3 sisters, and you the 7th child or whatever. Let's say the parents will their estate and assets and everything to the oldest child distribute amongst the rest of the children. Well, here comes, and this is where the question arises, how is it that if your parents specifically leave something for you all to distribute, now let's say, they have 10 acres of land and they left you 10% in their will or whatnot of that land. Just for example, now what's happening or what's been happening is for you to get your inheritance, which they say is something that's allotted to you through a will, you have to pay somebody to receive that, or inheritance tax or something crazy of that nature. And it's like what it's really doing is putting a blockage on.
It's a state tax.
It's a state tax, a quasi-national tax.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a quasi-national tax, which is why nationality is important. When you make this claim and you connect to the land and you're standing on your position, whether they trying to put you on probation, and when I say probation, I mean test your chin as in the etymology I just was saying. As soon as they try to, dispute with you and suck your energy, whether you right, wrong, or indifferent, that's probation, fam, off top. So if they're trying to put you on probation to where you have to show and prove and, substantiate who you are, it's really blocking success, inheritance, succession. Yeah. Like, how many times they use the terminology, such and such succeeded to the throne by inheritance of whoever, you know what I mean? Like, it's passing down. So if you can't pass anything down, that's putting you in a state of unsuccessfulness because there's nothing to go to the next generation. And the aspect was to be fruitful and multiply. But now this is what it is. All sisters, those who, and get your unabridged out and look up the etymology of sister, you will see that it means to cause to exist, existence. Or look up the etymology of existence, and you'll see that it goes back to sister in Latin. And these are all one heir to one inheritance. But what's the inheritance? We're saying that in the lessons that we was left, not just because they was left, because it's true that, we are spirits and parts of the Most High, for whatever you want to call it, her, the energy, the universal energy you can't describe in words. Like, if we're lineal descendants of that, what would be the inheritance? If the women are the lineal descendants of that energy manifested in the flesh, you know what I'm saying? Which just was basically the process of us getting here was a reproduction of that on this planet, because this planet is a mini universe. So from that, all claims of inheritance flow, and that's the nationality. So that goes back to nationality. So if we look at if she's a image of that, which we was talking about the Pope last week, and he's praying to her with no problem, and then we got the mental slavery where she's praying to a European image. It's crazy. But what would be the inheritance? The one inheritance, it goes back to the whole planet Earth, because Moors are aboriginal, indigenous to the whole planet Earth, and that's a fact. And this is why even in law, it tells you, and I mentioned this before, that when you look at maxims, they've been divided into Roman modified, and indigenous. Not Roman in English, not Roman in African, not Roman in American or Roman in Asian, like Roman and indigenous. Why? Because all indigenous people of the planet are the same people, you know, and there's universal law that definitely applies. And these maxims, you know, are paramount as far as standing in law. And that really goes back to the fact that, you know, the Aboriginal women or the Aboriginal sisters, you know, have a lot of claims to make, as you said. As far as the probation thing, though, you know, the test, they use this in so many aspects because, as you was mentioning, probate courts, you know, they put people on, quote-unquote, sentences of probation, whereas they say, okay, well, we found you guilty of this, that, and the third, but test your character and see how you act in society. It's test, but all of it is. It's just, I don't know. But to continue on from this reference out of Jean Bouvier's Encyclopedia of Law. Okay, hold on, pardon me, I missed my spot. Oh, it says, for the United States, generally speaking, proofs are not taken until citation or notice has been issued by the quote-unquote judge to all the parties interested to attend. On the return of the citation, the witnesses are examined and the trial proceeds before the court. If the judge, when both parties have been heard, decides in favor of the will, he admits it to probate. If against the will, he rejects it. More than one instrument may be proved, and where the contents of two or more instruments are not wholly inconsistent with each other, they may all be admitted as together constituting the last will and testament of the quote-unquote deceased. On the probate, the alleged will may be contested on any ground tending to impeach its validity, as that it was not executed in due form of law and according to the requisite statutory solemnities, that's statutory law, but that it was forged or was revoked or was procured by force, fraud, misrepresentation, or undue influence over a weak mind, or that the testator was incompetent by reason of idiocy or lunacy. And going back to idiot, what? An idiot is someone who has no knowledge of their nativity. So they can't make a national claim on their inheritance in the status of an idiot or orphan. And it's not a diss, it's the real fact in law. So I'm going to speak my last piece on this, and I will be touching on this a little bit more. And arguing denial of your ancestry, part 3 is trimmed down. I kind of OD'd on it, and I just want to make reference to this real quick. Johnson versus McIntosh, 21, U.S., 8-week, 543. This was 1823. Is a landmark decision of the U.S. Supreme Court that held that private citizens could not purchase lands from Native Americans. As the facts were recited by Chief Justice John Marshall, the successor in interest to a private purchase from a Pekinshaw, and we know this is Asiatics of North America, just a tribe of a nation, all right, attempted to maintain an action of ejectment against the holder of a federal land patent. The case is one of the most, and this is Johnson versus McIntosh, 1823. It says the case is one of the most influential and well-known decisions of the Marshall Court, a fixture of the first-year curriculum in nearly all, quote-unquote, U.S. law schools. Marshall's prosaic and eminently quotable opinion lays down the foundation of the doctrine of aboriginal title for the, quote, United States and the related discovery doctrine. However, the vast majority of the opinion is dictated as valid title is a basic element of the cause of action for ejectment. All that the opinion holds with respect to Aboriginal title is that it is inalienable. School that remains well-established law in nearly all common law jurisdictions. Citation to Johnson has been a staple of federal and state cases related to Native American land title for over 200 years. So with that, family, declare your nationality, because Moors are the Aboriginal and indigenous people of the land. And, when you know your titles to the land and you claim it, it is inalienable. And it's not just about saying, yeah, we Aboriginal indigenous. Like, all right, let's show and prove. We have rights to enforce, just because they're not enumerated in the Constitution, which is the law of the land. Remember that they're still protected by the Constitution via the Ninth Amendment, whereas it does state that, those rights not enumerated shall not be construed to deny or disparage those retained by the people. So being as though we are the Aboriginal people of the land, and there's any, quote, probation they want to throw at you or test they want to throw at you, you know what I mean? Go ahead and put that up there as far as, that inalienable claim to the land. And I shouldn't say that in the fashion where I'm telling anybody what to do, but just analyze the facts. And these are, supportive references to support that position in law, fact, equity, history, present, future, events, everything. So with that being said, I yield the floor, family. Islam.
Islam. To add on, Noble Drew Ali told the Moors that I brought you your nationality, your religion, and title to your vast estate.
True.
So, being that he brought that, that means we have it already. And it's about having the knowledge so that you're not considered in a position of ex parte, which is why they keep bringing that up with probate. Because without your nationality, you're literally at the discretion of whoever is the one claiming authority. Because technically you're not there. If you don't have a nationality, you're void. But if they present it like that, then you would realize that you need to have a status before you can even go in that venue called probate or orphan court or whatever. And if you're an adult and an orphan is a child, what are you doing in there anyways? Like, how is that even the jurisdiction?
Right.
If probate is going back to orphan and surrogate, and an orphan is a child. An orphan is not an adult. An orphan not gonna have no will or nothing like that, because you can't contract with a minor. But since the people want to be minors, then they're just going to ex parte steal the land because, it's your status. It's not because of the will or because of the court or because of the judge isn't fair or whatever. It's the status that sets up the fall from the beginning of not even having it. Which is where the importance of what Noble Drew Ali brought is really what it's about for so-called Negro black colored people. Because there could be no claim that we make that is going to be respected or accepted or whatever if we first don't have nationality. Now, that's
wow.
the first, and then that sets the status that sets the first issue at law. That either okay, so then if the status is this person's Aboriginal and Indigenous, then there's not even no need to go to probate court because they have superior claim by being Indigenous.
True.
The superior claim is on the Aboriginal and Indigenous people. So once they get the Aboriginal and Indigenous people to think about minor and orphan and being on probation, they already have them in a subordinate position without even going to court yet. Because remember, just like Brother Miz was saying, it's about success. And if the men, don't forget, we've downloaded a slave mentality. We've been successors of slave mentalities. We haven't been a successor of nobility. Generation after generation after generation, right? And then just like Mother Anid saying, right, that the successor, which isn't really the successor because it's to the mother, as a son is taking the position of a mother, which makes you subordinate because you can't make that claim. Like the claim can't really be made regardless of the age, because if you have no status, you're orphan, you're a minor. Doesn't matter, you're 80, 90, whatever. Your position is still dead in law. And then you're going to have, just like we're saying, the lawyer, right, which in the definition of improper persona lets you know that once you have a lawyer, that admits the jurisdiction of the court, which is allowing them to do whatever, take the land, take the house, take anything that the people claim that they have that's theirs. As far as the lawyer part is concerned.
Absolutely.
And then we have to come to the realization that, you know, we're seeing things in its fruition as far as the fraud. They're not practicing fraud no more. Their stuff it's there. That's what's going on. They can't go further than where they are. So once you realize that you got them at fraud, once you realize the fraud that they're doing by trying to make you a minor in order to have jurisdiction, you could correct before they even make their move. But again, the individual who's in the position has to have the mindset to want to correct. And you're not going to act correct if you have a lawyer, because you're not acting. You have somebody sitting in for you, so it's still not you. Even if you tell them what to say or whatever, it's still going to be ex parte because you're not there. The so-called judge is there, so-called lawyer is there. Everybody, all the other pieces are on the board except you. And then and when you research probate, it'll tell you about the rules of probate court are surrogate rules.
Yes.
The rules of probate court aren't the rules of probate court. The rules of probate court are surrogate rules of the court. You know, similar to the court is going to have business hours, but people are going to call it the court. The court is going to have a big plaque that says administrative building, but people are going to call it a court.
Right.
So it's the same thing that they're going to say probate, but it don't really mean probate. It's really an ex parte court.
Yes. And just to interject, you know, for some people, if you don't know what ex parte means, go and look it up in the Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition. Don't assume just because you know what ex and part mean that you can figure out what it says. Go look it up, and then you'll get better clarity of what Cujo is saying. Islam?
Islam. Indeed. If I could add on one thing too, you was also mentioning earlier about the probate court being for what you said, orphans, negligence, or I think you said vagabonds and habitual drunkards.
Yes.
All right. So now you're talking about character.
Spencer's.
Huh? You say Spencer's. That. You know where this is going, right? Because you know that when they talk about people in that fashion, that's Roman law. Like, I'm not saying this right or wrong. I'm not saying this right or wrong. But these are the same people who claim that Jesus Christ is the Savior and this is the only way. So let's analyze what Yeshua was talking about. Oh, my gosh. Cujo, help me right here. Where Yeshua, it's in the circle 7 or somebody, you know what I mean? It's in the circle 7. And I think, I might be wrong, pardon me, I think it was Barada Arabo. I might be wrong, but it was somebody who was talking or warning Yeshua like, yo, you're going to be like in trouble when they hear that, you know, you the Holy One type thing was hanging with courtesans, drunkards, and thieves. And he was like, man, get out of my face with that, basically, because some of them have solved problems that you are still working out. You know what I mean? And it was like, you know, like, so you already know he was about bringing the people out of the oppression from under the Roman yoke and law. So for him to say that, you know that has nothing to do with the message he was bringing. And I'm not saying it's right, but he didn't judge in that fashion because basically he saw the spirit man in everybody, basically, was what he was saying. And for y'all to try to judge that's what the Romans have been doing, or those who adopted their mentality have been doing since back then. You know what I mean? Oh, that person is something wrong with them because they do this or they do that. No, that's Roman perspective. You know what I mean? Yeshua was like, look, I see my people right here, and we're going to build, basically. I don't care what you got to say about them because, I mean, it is what it is. They ain't do nothing to me type of thing. Like, we sitting here, it's all love type. And you can see the concept of what the Christians did. And when I say Christians, I'm not talking about what you think you believe. I'm talking about from the political aspect, the mental twist. Like, you know what I'm saying? The Romans, to say the least. You know what I mean? Like, they sit here and say they love a man that they murdered and go against what he was about in certain aspects. So with that, I'm not going to start judging nobody. I'm just saying, you know, look at the concept of that probate court. You know what I mean? And if they talking ecclesiastic, testamentary law, you correlate that with the First Amendment. You know, you got the Old Testament, New Testament, etc. You know, they're not really about what Yahshua was about. Because why? I mean, oh, man, look, I'm going to just say this last thing and leave it at this. If you correlate what Noble Drew Ali was saying, as far as what the word, quote, Jesus means, as far as justice, it's not in them. It's not there. It's just not. It's really not. So that's, that's something to analyze. That I yield the floor. I thought I heard my mom ad-libbing in there somewhere. Am I wrong? Are you with this? Like,
Well, actually, I was like doing like people do in the church testimony when Cool J was running it down. I was like, I mean,
right.
Yes, indeed. I wasn't feeling well, as you know, but I just want to interject this in there to everybody and then get right back on this because this is some powerful stuff right here. But believe me, when you change your diet and you know you're not supposed to eat junk food, don't eat it. Your body will give a revolution. It will revolt against you. You'll get a headache. You'll be feeling sick. Okay, all right. So that was my undue diligence in that respect. So, but I'm better now.
It was my fault, y'all. That was my fault. I brought my mother some cookies. I brought my mom some cookies, and then afterwards, the next day, she was like, so it was my fault. I apologize. No more sweets for me.
I overindulged and ate them at the wrong time, and, you know, everybody knows never go, you know, shopping for food, right, Miz? When you're hungry, you just get the wrong stuff. That is not your fault. My discipline. But that to it, so I come in and I'm,
So you didn't bring back the cow. And you're a vegetarian.
Yeah, man. I come in and I'm hearing Cujo at the time just breaking it down, and all I'm hearing, I'm like, okay, what have we been teaching, saying, advising, sharing, imparting that would be almost on an elementary level? And that is, what is the first issue at law?
Status.
Status. I'm like, oh man, I'm hearing this, and I guess everyone listening would be hearing it too. But it's status.
Oh man,
it's status, and that's what I was saying. It's status. Status is the first issue of law, and then what is it? Oh, you want an attorney? Oh, okay. Well, that means clearly when you look up, even if, listen, by mistake, listen, this is interesting. By mistake, if you even listen to the fact that status is the first issue at law, right? Then you go look up what that means. It means being an appropriate persona, which is what the prophet said, I come to teach you to be yourself. That means to be a proper person, right? So you lawfully go look up proper person. And even by accident, you wasn't even looking. It tells you in the defines of a proper person that if you use an attorney, don't even worry about it because you just admitted jurisdiction to this venue. I'm going to say court, but it's court. But those are, like y'all just said, administrative buildings. You know, you just admitted jurisdiction to this venue. So don't even think about it. You know, so there you trip up on the fact that you can't use the attorney based on the fact that you're of status. It's by accident you see it when you weren't even looking for it. So they are connected because this lawyer, attorney, as Cujo's mentioned, is speaking for you, and then you go, well, why is that? Because they speak for corporations and things, inanimate objects. They can't speak for themselves. Or what did y'all say? Running down again on that program, drunkards, thieves, courtesans. Oh, and I like the connection, Ms. I understand the connection you're making to the courtesans. What it means is that Yahshua has been pulling people out of this status thing for a long time. So
exactly.
You're right. Right. So we don't. Time has no time because remember they done took 580 off the calendar. So don't everybody think that that's that far and long ago because it really is not.
But hold on, Ma. But look at it from this angle too. That it's not. I mean, yeah, Yahshua existed, but also keep in mind it's an energy.
It's the principle. Yeah.
That doesn't die and doesn't have time. This is what Noble Drew Ali was trying to make us aware of when he was saying that Jesus means justice. So what does that mean? Study justice. Why? Because you need to know this, and it's one of our 5 national principles, more or less, depending on where you're at mentally. Justice is an energy. I mean, Jesus is a concept of energy.
Mm-hmm.
Like And I'm not saying that from the perspective of, go to worship him on Sunday type of thing, because he was the one who said, don't worship me. I'm just your brother, man, trying to show the way. That's it. That's all in the story. Like, so cut it out with everything else, you know what I'm saying? Because that's all I'm here to do. So take the word and move with that, but not me necessarily, And so it was an energy he was passing on to those a higher vibration, to say the least. I mean, you could say I'm wrong, but I don't know. I'm just going off the facts there.
You say justice. When you say justice, and we look at the 5 principles, you got love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice is really the foundation of that. But the very, very first principle of that is love. So if you're not coming in as love, you're never really going to get to the justice. But you'll get to justice, but it'll be it'll be justice based on your deeds or your contributions or your retributions and stuff like that. But the very first, the opposite of love, of course, is what you'll find at the end of that. But so the first principle is love. And everything that's just being said here and the foundations of these Roman venues and of these corporations is not based in, I think you brought it out, the principles and the values that of love, which is what Yahshua, many, call Jesus, of course, and go to church for, as you said, his sake and everything. None of those institutions are working on that first principle of love. That's why they're all being exposed today. Mm-hmm. Churches, schools, courts, just what it is. It's not the principle of love. So that energy that you're talking about that always existed, and as I would say, it's not as far away as you think, from that story that you read in about Yahshua, that energy will seep into the spirit and energy of many people who don't get the right schooling from the foundation, which would be starting from the time you're born or not born in the womb, and the energies that are surrounding you thereafter, just like the truth energy will creep into any window you open, so shall this other energy. So, you got to keep your situation and your foundation and your surroundings clear.
And also, too, speaking on foundation, keep in mind that we were taught that the Moors inherited the ancient Kemetic. When we speak about writ writing and law and things like that, know that we're speaking about Tahuti and Ma'at, because Ma'at is the scales, right, which is justice. And in order for justice to be balanced, it's going to be the heart, which is love, which is Noble Juali again, right, is going to be weighed against the feather, right? And the feather is what we used to put on the pen, right, which Tahuti is the scribe, which is the pen, which the Moor says the sword. We don't need no weapons to defeat this European. Just, use your pen, use your spells, right? And then remember that Tahuti is Hermes, Trismegistus, which is the spells that the Europeans are using when they do their Hermetica and all that type of stuff, and alchemy and turn lead to gold and all this type of stuff. Mm-hmm. So it's all everything's lined up for us. Everything was laid down so that we can, Juali even going as far as saying he's the Egyptian adept, but he never called himself Egyptian. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right? Tying it right back again that, we're all Moors right now.
Yeah.
At this time, from the time when Noble Juali came, that was the resurrection of the Moors in America, because it has to start here, because this is where we fled to when, some of us, don't forget, they only talk about the Moors who, when they got kicked out of Spain, all they talk about are the Moors who went back to, the so-called continent of Africa brothers and sisters, to get out of the persecution. They didn't tell you about the people who came back over here. They didn't tell you about the people who had the knowledge of over here that left when the Inquisition was going on. They left and came here, and the only reason that Columbus came here is because they followed those people here.
And they don't talk about how Moors was kicking them up and down the land, in battles, on this side, the Moors, like specifically Moors, or who they call Maroons, etc. Like Moors everywhere. But I just want to add on this one concept, because you was talking about, adding on to foundation and writing bricks, etc., etc. Like, you have to understand, we all have to understand that that's construction, like that's building. That is foundation when you're doing those spells or, you're writing your bricks. And I want to correlate this fact / metaphor to me, because it's construction. You're being constructive. So just basic definition of constructive notice, because law is building, right? Length, angle, width, etc. So when you talk about, builders, foundations, casting spells, keep in mind, more constructive notice exists when the party, by any circumstances, whatever, is put upon inquiry, which is the same as implied notice, or when certain acts have been done which the party interested is presumed to have knowledge of grounds of public policy, right? So grounds, foundation, building, constructing, constructive notice, all of this is relative to law. Judge Story defines the term constructive notice as knowledge imputed by the court on presumption too strong to be rebutted, that the information must have been communicated. Story Equity Jurisprudence, subsection 399, in the reference and source of law, John Bouvier's Concise Encyclopedia of Law, Francis Rawley's third revision, page 2369, definition of notice. So constructive notice, foundation, all of this going back to what Noble Drew Ali was trying to bring us, whether he said it like this or not. He left this blueprint in the aspect where he was talking about the tools that we use in the workshop of the mind. All of this goes back to construction, law, length, angle, width. So, and then, pardon me, this is my last thought on this, and because earlier we was even speaking about the Jews who can't claim to be the Els because they not. But look at these Romans and these Europeans who are claiming to be Moors in secret. Like we already know, they got the Masonic order, you know what I mean, where they're dealing with the compass and the square, which are what? Builder's tools, blueprint tools in that aspect. The level, the plumb, all of these things Noble Drew Ali was talking about. And they got fezzes with, like, Aladdin, Muhammad, Mecca, Medina, Moors. We already know this. This is available for view on RVBeypublications.com. It has been for some time. So, like, they're trying to claim it in secret but keep it open. All of this correlates because what? They Muslim sons. Muslim sons, not just sons, Muslim sons. Keep that in mind. So I just wanted to add that on, and I didn't mean to cut the floor, but that definitely was a thought I wanted to share as far as construction and spells. The concept of constructive notice being too strong to rebut. That's just what it is. So that I yield the floor, family.
Well, alrighty. Thank you for that. Let's see. We got about... Go ahead.
This is, man, something just hit me that I just want to interject here too. When Cujo, when he said those who, I think he said those who wanted to go to Africa. Okay, I think he mentioned that something about those who wanted to go to Africa or leave here and go to Africa. If you read and this hit me today because I was talking to my brother, my dear brother, and he had said that in the 13th Amendment with the 20 sections, it says in there, those who, remember it says in Article 12 that we of African descendants, they were referring at the time, can never be citizens of the United States of America, right?
It's fact.
Fact. So now, I mean, a lot of people don't get the distinction. I think by now they got the distinction, but because they really ought to get the distinction of the difference between America and the United States of America. They really need to be clear, because if you're not clear with that, it's not going to go down. Because even 3 weeks ago, when Michelle Obama did that ceremony for naturalization, she made it clear. She told them all that they were not Americans. She said the 57 people who signed the Declaration wasn't Americans, and that those people who were being naturalized at the time were being naturalized into the United States of America. She didn't say America. She said being naturalized into the United States of America at the time, although no one can really be naturalized, period, in this land or at all unless it's done by a Moor in the first place. So all that naturalization, immigration, rules, laws, and bull crap is all, again, bull, because they can't naturalize nobody because they themselves are immigrants. So you add all that in because the Pope just told them they were immigrants also, or affirmed that they were immigrants also. So this is the issue here. But the 13th Amendment says in there that those who want to, now imagine, this is after the Inquisition, when they came over here, like destruction, and war, and their intent, their Inquisition intent, right? And it said in it that those who are African descent can immigrate, not immigrate, immigrate. It's right in the 13th Amendment, and set up colonies. My mind was totally blown, because if you were in fact from where you thought was Africa, right, then, or if you went there, then if you set up colonies, you cannot be the original natural people, because the natural people don't set up colonies on their own land.
That's right.
Okay, so, yeah, mind blown. I was like, oh, shoot. But even with that effort, it's like we all have been wanting to go anywhere else, immigrate, expatriate, and that's what's going on through the birth certificate redemption bowls. Everybody's expatriating to somewhere else or out of this American land, and period. So it's already in there. So it's proof right there that this is where we always were. This is out. We are the Aboriginals right here. So how is it that you're Aboriginal, which means you are indigenous? And we all must be clear that those who are indigenous don't mean they're Aboriginal, because that's what Europeans are trying to hold on to now, saying that I was born here, so I'm indigenous. Is what they're saying. They're not Aboriginal, but they're trying to hold on to anything to try to free themselves from this yoke as well. So the thing is that we are, if we are Aboriginal indigenous, all this information being put out today about these courts, these venues, one of the venues really, and I think the resurrection of the Moor that they said when Prophet Noble Jurali came in and then saying to be who you are, there's no way you're going to have foreigners and immigrants setting up institutions and different things, corporations on your ancestral estate telling you what to do. How does that even happen unless you are asleep? Oh, that's right, we are asleep. And It's the resurrection. It's time to wake up. Sleep ye at Moor. It just doesn't, when you compare the two, it just doesn't make any real sense. Unless you're just totally still conditioned in the mental slavery. And all of these things we're saying, people are saying, yeah, but they're doing this and they're doing that. We have to address the fact that, yeah, they are. They've got private security guards out on the road accosting the highwaymen. They use really armed forces to try to coerce you into their venues so that they can do a fake adjudication on you and make finance and then exchange it for finance with that. I guess they would use, starting with that bond, which is a certificate, which is proof of human trafficking. So that's what they're doing all day long, right in our faces. So collectively, we have to get this information and make this change immediately.
Yes. Woo.
Oh.
All right. We have 24 minutes left to the live internet feed. And what that means, at 11:30, the internet feed is going to go down. If you can, call 347-945-5899. If you cannot get in, wait until 12:30 and download the show from the archives, and you will be able to listen to the hour of the show that you would have missed. All right, so with that, what we're going to do is we're going to take some callers. And let's see, we are going to start with, hold on a minute. I apologize for that. We're going to start with, let's see, caller 860-719. You are live on the air. Please state your appellation and Northwest Mexican. Islam, caller 860-719. All right, maybe they hit one by accident. All right, we'll go to our next caller. Caller 347-443. You're live on the air. Please state your appellation and Northwest Maxim. Caller 347-443. All righty, maybe they're not ready. All righty. Caller 412-652. You are live on the air. Please state your appellation at Northwest Mexico. All righty, maybe they're not ready. All righty. Caller 412-652. You are live on the air. Please state your appellation at Northwest Mexico. All righty, maybe they're not ready.
They're not ready.
They're listening, but they're not there.
All right, they're not there. All right, let's go to caller 803-305. You're live on the air. Please state your appellation at Northwest Maxim.
Islam. This is James Bay at Northwest Maxim. How's the family?
Great.
Great. I enjoyed the show. It was very informational. And I just had a question. Actually, near the corporate state of South Carolina, I've been doing a whole bunch of footwork and everything, and actually in my proper status, doing a lot of different odds and ends things to get by as far as what we would call pecuniary income, or whatever you would call it. And I've actually ran into a situation with a banker where they was actually, I guess, accepting the ID And for some reason, after, I guess, talking to the higher-ups, I was told that they didn't want to recognize it. So I was just asking what would be the proper way to actually prosecute that banker to the fullest extent for not accepting our IDs.
Well, the first thing, what I would suggest is recognizing that the recognition comes from yourself, not them.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to recognize yourself first before they recognize it.
Right.
Right. So if we look like I tell Moors out here, you go around, whether it's a store, office, whatever, you know what I mean? And you are going to get a service or products or something like that. And they realize that you're Aboriginal Indigenous, you have your own ID that is not corporate state ID. And then they say that they can't recognize this, or they will not recognize this ID because it didn't come from the corporate state. At that point, they're letting you know that they're down with the corporate state, which you shouldn't be contracting with them anyways, and go find somebody else to give your patronage to instead of wasting your energy dealing with these corporate people who, even if you do persecute them to the full extent of whatever, they don't got nothing to give you.
Right.
Like, there's nothing to get.
Right.
They already acknowledge that they're a fraud.
Right.
Right? So our mentality has to be, don't worry about persecuting them in that context. Persecute them by not giving them patronage.
Mm-hmm.
And then spreading the word to everybody else. Don't go to those people because they don't respect Aboriginal Indigenous rights.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see how long their business stays open, because, we're the only ones that fund a lot of these people who are in our communities.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
Nobody else is funding them. We're the only ones funding them. You know what I mean? And then when they violate us, then we want to sue them and win, and then we're still going to go there. Talk about we won something. You won something and you still going to them?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Okay. Generally, my I guess you can say perception of the whole deal. I can be honest and tell the truth tonight and just tell you the situation. Okay. Generally, I have my own business where, I actually do a recovery for special recoveries and whatnot. So whenever a check would be cut, I figured, okay, fine, I have my ID, and I would just take it in and cash it. So a few times it worked, but then, generally we're non-taxable or non-obligatory or whatever. So I guess where they couldn't tax the situation, the higher-ups was like, okay, we're going to just nip this in the bud. So I won't lie, it did cross my mind. I'm saying to myself, this could be where the first $1 million comes from, being that I could actually take her to court and probably win, But I will take heed to what you're saying. Just don't give them no business if I can.
Well, let me ask you something. You talk, let me just add this. As Cujo saying, going to different businesses, stores, whatever set up. And we all of us on this line, and probably some others, have a different experience, because not that we don't get the experience of, we can't take that, but we kind of, like it's being said, is like, excuse you? It's the way in which you present, not that you're wrong in presenting, but it's the way in which you, like one time I put in writing to the corporation, if you are saying that you do not wish to do business They should only do business with people who are bound to corporate policies, rules, and taxes. Then you need to put a sign up on this store that says so. That we don't do business with. You understand? See, it's a matter of how you look at it, because once it's broken down to them, you know, when they want you, like they'll say, in some cases, in this case, well, we need you to substantiate your position because you don't have the normal, you know, tax forms or whatever like that. You know what I mean? Like that, FT forms to show that you're not obligated. You know, so you need to post that. And then maybe we don't need to do business at your corporation, your stores, in any location. So that's letting them know, just like Cujo said, we ain't going to do business with you. But the other thing is your energy on how you present it. Because like you're talking about a bank, right? Or whatever. But then there's people who have taken this identification and opened up bank accounts without a problem. So how is it that they're going to say we can respect your card? And if you understand the rights of indigenous people, and you do, is that you have a right to establish your own identification that must be respected when you come with that energy. But see, I like what you said. You said, I'm being honest, I was thinking to get money, get something from them. And that's the thinking. I'm so glad that you're honest to say that, because so many people, and I believe that that's the thinking that must be erased from our minds, because then that becomes, that can become the driving force or reason, right?
Right.
Right. I'm glad you're being so honest, right? Because that is where it'll get all skewed and explode, because in this era of time and in these days, we have to be right and exact and move forward in our affairs. And as Cujo said, you can't get nothing from anywhere there are nothing to give. Islam.
Right. Islam. I appreciate it.
All right.
Well, you know what? One thing to consider is that, you know, and think about it, not just you, but everybody. When they get people who come over from Japan, they ask them for identification, but you know, their identification is completely in Manchurian. They don't have a problem.
Yes.
Right.
Because you got to look at this ID. If someone asks you, well, where did you get this? Because they don't know what it is. Your answer would be from my national family. In the story.
Yeah.
From my national family.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And as well when we look at like for example at the school where I'm at, right? Like we have adults that come there to register for school. When they come from Tibet or whatever, you know, yeah, they have a passport, but you don't know what that says on it.
Mhm.
Right.
Like, you literally don't know what that says on it. But they let them register for school still. They don't tell them, oh, we need a translated one or nothing like that. Right? So
right.
what we have to also recognize and acknowledge, you know, is the disservice that our people have done by not being nationals.
Yes.
The disservice that we've done by 100 years ago, we're supposed to have nationality card, we're supposed to have Moorish American box, so we're supposed to check off and all that.
Right.
But we don't have that. How come? Oh, European. No, European didn't do nothing. Look at your own, because even Drew Ali told you it's your own that's going to sell you out.
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and most of the time, remember that when you go to these corporations, these businesses, and we present ourselves in propria persona to them, eventually, you know, yeah, they let one or two go through, but you know, if they let everybody go through, it's over for them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like it's done for them. If they let 10 more get a bank account at the same bank, it's over for them.
I understand.
Yeah.
So they have to. They're kind of playing, you know, damage control you know, to protect the little bit that they have, because they have no land. So, you know, all they have is literally what they stick in their hand in their pocket, pull out. That's what they got.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because the building's not theirs, because it's on our land. You know, their car or whatever is not theirs, because they got to drive on land. You can't fly no cars around here.
Mm-hmm.
They literally have nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So also, it's not, you know, don't take offense to their withholding on us. You know what I mean? Don't get mad. This is the catch-22 that we're in right now. It's just what it is. But we have the upper hand because we're home. They're not.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And
Right.
anything that you want.
Attitude.
have we ever thought about how about we go to Bank of India and open a bank? How about we go to Bank of Sri Lanka or Bank of whatever? Because those people got banks over here too.
Yeah, Chinese
It's not just Chase and Wells Fargo and whatever, and that's it that have banks out here.
The municipal courts
right.
are banks.
The
The courts are banks.
But look, the point of the matter is, even though the municipal courts are banks, well, actually, in truth, they're not.
Right.
Honey,
Okay.
they're not.
Got you.
And this is the fraud. The reason that they're not a bank, and it is a fraud, is because all banks is nothing more than brokers, brokering transactions. All right?
Right.
The reason it is a fraud is because everybody in there sitting in, let me just rephrase, that building, it's called a court. But those municipal employees are not court employees. They are corporation employees, and none of them are licensed brokers. But they're doing brokerage transactions.
Right.
And
but they have the same intent as the original banks, or excuse me, not original banks, because Moors did have banks first that was taxing them to the extent that was just crazy. But you're right, they're doing the same thing. And when the banks was first instituted, I apologize, I can't give the specific reference on this visual, but it was definitely on something we were watching, and it was breaking down. I think you had actually showed me where the whole intentions of the European bankers at first was to make claim on the land, and the people of the land was fighting it back. Because that was their whole intention. So when I was saying that they're bankers, like not that you can open up a legitimate account, but they try to force business on you with an account. And their whole thing as Romans is the same intentions of the original bankers. But the thing is, the people have been fighting back, which is why, now, what's their slogan? Well, Wachovia is now Wells Fargo, and all of these commerce is now TD Bank. Why? Because the people realized who they really were. Like, they was trying to steal inheritance. You know what I mean? And that was the same intent that all these Europeans had. So when I say bank, I mean in the aspect of what their original intention was. That's what I'm saying. So, like, I know they're not legitimate as far as to place trust in them, like the municipal venues, but on the broader aspect, all of them are municipal venues with the same intentions.
Yeah. Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Yes. So when I say bank, I mean it in that aspect. Like, that's all. That's all. You know what I mean? Because what? Who's trying to bring actions to, eject Moors out of their homes without them or with them knowing that they have claim to Aboriginal title or whatnot to the land? Like, you know what I mean? Like, these, you most of the time you find yourself going up against banks. they have a quote, or they claim to have a quote, interest in Moor's ancestral estate. Even though they're not saying it like that, they know it's not theirs. But all of them are about that Federal Reserve note and wardship, so nobody can claim their estate status, the ancestral estate, the ancestral status, which is the Moorish nationality, or the Al-Moroccan, American nationality. That's why they're claiming it, and then making the claim that we Negroes, blacks, and coloreds. That's all of that got something to do with the bank, which is why Aboriginal Moor or American, Al-Moroccan, Asiatic of the Western Hemisphere and quote unquote obtain a living space on their ancestral estate, and if they do it through them, they call them a tenant because they're trying to play the landlord. You know what I mean? Like, this is what's really going on. People never connect the fact that, yeah, the municipal court is a bank. It's a bench. The word bank and bench mean the same thing. So, you know, the monopoly they playing, their whole concept is let's play monopoly and I'm holding bank. But Snapple top fact, I think number 208, if you add up opposing sides of any dice cue, you get 7. So on the opposite side of the 6 is the 1. On the opposite side of the 3 is the 4, et cetera, et cetera. On the opposite side of the 5 is the 2. This is still circle 7 that they're dealing with. It's the monopoly. You know what I'm saying? The 360 degrees and 7 on every side. Here you go. You hear what I'm saying to you? Like, this is the real science behind what's going on. So it's gambling, which is against, you know, the culture of Moors in that aspect. So with that being said, family, like all of these corporations in that aspect are in a certain aspect banks, and they're saying it without saying that we're banks. Like when you go to the municipal court, you say the judge is on the bench. You know what I'm saying? The judge is on the bank. It's monopoly. Go to jail, right?
How about,
don't they got that on the board?
How about when you went in there and you're asking them for their delegation of a delegation of authority? Oh no, sorry, not delegation of authority. Well, you know that too. But I've heard, I can't remember who it was who told me this. They asked for the magistrates or the so-called magistrates' oath of office, and he hemmed and hawed that he didn't have it on him. It was up at some other office, and then we open for business. We open for business now. That's what he said. You remember who was it we was talking to, and they said this to him. Look, we're open to do business. I remember having a conversation because they so blatant. They're so in our face with the things they say because they know many. I'm not, ain't nobody on this call is like that, but they know there's many more. They ain't studying. So they can come to me and say all manner of things to them, and they go right over their head because they ain't studying. So they'll say, yeah, well, we open for business today. And I forget who it was. I think it was a sister, and she was like, with all due respect, I still need to see your oath of office. And the magistrate ended up postponing it for another day, or to come back. They rescheduled it. But she was speaking in an intelligent tone. She wasn't trying to, be, hey, she knew the position she was playing. There was no need to be arrogant. I'm sorry, but with all due respect, I need to see your oath of office. And he was getting all pissed. If you don't let us proceed, I'm going to lock you up. I'm sorry, but, with all due respect, sir, I need to see your oath of office.
Mm-hmm.
And he couldn't intimidate her, so he finally had to say, well, we're just going to reschedule this. And then he added, but it ain't because I ain't got my oath of office. Really?
I remember someone telling us that. I just can't remember. Yes, we was laughing. He said, well, I'm going to reschedule, but it's not because I don't have my oath of office. Like he's trying to save his face. I don't have my oath of office. but still, you know what? That's crazy. But still, we got to get it so that we don't even deal with these people because, like we were mentioning earlier, they are a little angry. If what did someone say that if you put 10 more together, a bank account, they're done. They're kind of done. So they're going to be even more angry and do facetious things that they've been doing all along. It's just that it's going to be real outward and obvious. It's like a sinking ship. It's like going down and trying to take everybody you can with them. So we got to really eliminate these corporations off the land.
Well, and you're so right. And this is when I was talking with two Moors. I can't remember where they were calling from there, but one of the things that we have to do, because our biggest challenge, I maintain this. Our biggest challenge is we do not know we have not identified the proper party. We really haven't. That's why, I'm not saying that the state is not a party, but they are not the one that kicks things off. And look, the only way that you can kill a snake is to chop the head off. So the state is not the head of the issue. The state is somewhere in the middle or the tail of the situation. But if we could do the proper research and identify the proper party, and go after them, you would be chopping off the head. And I haven't heard anybody tell me any differently that the proper party is these employees of the county, city, town, township, or borough. They're absolutely, if you do the history, you will find that they were established or founded as a company. That's why when you go on the World Wide Web, they got it right up on there. They say that we were established or we were founded in such and such a time, and then you will see that they were incorporated. It doesn't matter if they are a corporation or a company. They do not have the authority to infringe on the rights of a flesh and blood being. Now, some people will say, oh, well, they're coming after me because I'm a 14th Amendment. They are presuming that I'm a 14th Amendment citizen. Really? Do your Fifth Amendment citizen or 14th Amendment person is nothing more than a corporation. You are not a corporation because last time I checked, you were talking. Last time I checked, you were signing. A corporation can't sign. That's why all these people run around talking about, well, I'm engaging in commerce and they're engaging in commerce. If you really understood commerce, you would know that you can never be liable because you're signing on behalf of, but you're not liable. So if they want to say, oh, this 14th Amendment corporate person did this, then you always got to say, well, geez, that ain't me. I was just signing on behalf. Because look, they trying to say you're a 14th Amendment person, but they're really not saying you are. They're just saying that this entity that has been established, that is a 14th Amendment person. But you are not. Look, they functioning They're functioning based off a lack of information, and they have positioned themselves, if we would just think a little bit and free ourselves, we hold in a double-edged sword. Because they either trying to say you're a corporation of which you can't be liable because corporations can't fine, all right? Or you're a flesh and blood being of which you're violating my constitutionally secured right. Which one is it going to be? Don't matter because the sword is going to swing both ways. Which way you want it to swing. It's going to cut whichever way it swings. But it ain't swinging nowhere because we don't study. We don't have the proper people identified, and we don't really comprehend the magnitude of the power we have. And we don't even know our history because we are the ones that's supposed to be enforcing this Constitution. Yeah, you get around some of these Moors, and they'll say, well, you know, the Constitution they're talking about is the bylaws of the temple. That is not the Constitution that is talked about, all right? That's not it. Because that Constitution only is talking about the people in the temple. These modern Europeans ain't in the temple. So what Constitution could possibly be talking about that would hold them in check, that would bind them? It says right in the American Constitution that this binds them out. You got to know. You got to study. You can't let people just dictate your thoughts because if that's all you want to do, you might as well stay where you at. Serious. Might as well. Now, I think we didn't get too many callers in, so let's go to our next caller. I think we went to this caller, but they were, like, really busy. Maybe they're back. Caller 347-860. You're live on the air. Please state your appellation at Northwest of Maxim.
Islam, Robert Royal, Judge L, Northwest of Maxim. Peace and love, family. Love you all.
Islam, peace and love.
Going in on it, I tell you. And I'm down with that. Chop the head of the snake off and eliminate these corporations, and and I see the signs of not patronizing to shut them down and things like that. But I also see that it is a big game, and they do know, and they keep playing it. And yes, there are so many that allow them to play it with them that they, when they break the law, though, which we're supposed to enforce, in terms of what must be done, that becomes another issue as far as I'm concerned. And, keep buzzing. I keep getting this buzz all week in my ear, ringing in my head. Conflict that can't be described in words, but the victory is assured, And meanwhile, though, I did have a question for the initial topic dealing with the question of that probate situation. And even as my brother went deep into that whole idea of the cut off the succession and so forth, and my question, though, is if mom, auntie, and all the other females are like, still asleep, non-declared, non-proclaimed, do that mean that there's a situation created where probate and ex parte subjectivity is upon all matters and nothing can be done?
It could because of the fact that because of the condition and status of the child is absolutely determined by the condition of the mother. So yes, that is why this is about, and the Prophet Noble Jalali said, have a greater respect for women, and etc. And even when you're dealing with birthright and nationality and the principles both come from her, and your nationality does too. So your first school womb is in your mother's womb. So if you're born into the status that she is, you are born into the status that she is. So yes, in a nutshell, period, done. Yes.
Right.
So then, in other words, then even an awakened son cannot protect the mom. That's sweet.
The mom, no, an awakened son, if he's a chapter 2 son, he can definitely awaken the mother. That's what a chapter 2, we call it, chapter 2 is about. It's about the sons who are awakened to bring that light. Absolutely.
Indeed.
But no nation can rise higher than its women. That was already also affirmed when they were in the nation of Islam, or the Temple of Islam, as it originally originated as a spin-off from Prophet Muhammad Ali's teaching in 33, I think it was. It was called the Temple of Islam, that grew into the Nation of Islam, or changed into it. So they've always said a nation. And it's true, not because they said it, but because it's true. A nation will not cannot, will not rise higher
than its women.
It's an impossibility because they come out of her womb, and if she's ducks down, so, she's not teaching them in the first school room. And it's national law, international law, which is common law. The condition of the child is based on the condition of the mother.
Yes. Well, let me share, if I may, a short experience where it just dealt with one receiving one of those tickets from for trash in front of the house or something like that, and so. I
would say don't have trash in front of the house, because I would like to keep my community clear. I don't like that. I'm not going to be the one to answer that really well, because I am I'm a person who likes to do that and keep it. I don't like that. I am a private trash person to take the trash before I leave that pile up there. But anyway, if you're going to make your analogy, go ahead.
But at any given moment, the wind can blow trash in front of a house, and if you're not there on time to beat the wind and the looker, then my point is that the ticket writer calls it a crime, which is not a crime because there's no guilty, there's no harm or nothing. But in any event, in sending back a reply, I requested their oath of office and other things, and the people, to show the games that they play, they actually sent paperwork back in a big envelope, and it was marked oath of office on the outside. So I'm thinking in the inside it's going to be something pertaining. And on the inside, they just sent back all the paperwork that I sent.
Look, the reason that we asked for the oath of office, as well as the delegation of authority, because we already know they ain't got it. Because if you did the research, you would know they're a freaking corporation, which is what I said before I even took your call. So, yeah, if you think that their government, because see, only government would have an oath of office and delegation of authority. But if you don't know, then why wouldn't they play games with you?
That's all they got left to do.
You sending in, now see, we do things because of strategy. But the strategy was put in place because you're supposed to know you're dealing with a corporation. Your ancestors wrote the American Constitution. What they're doing ain't nowhere in the American Constitution. So you already know from the door that they're not government. But since you acting like government, we ask you for some things that government ought to have, i.e., an over office, delegation of authority. And all of these people, all of these corporations behave as though they're government. The light company, the gas company, the water company, they said, well, we were granted this charter by the Union State, you know. All right, well, show me a delegation of authority.
Mm-hmm.
Show it to me, because, see, everything is based off of delegation. You have, say, you don't want to handle maintaining your checkbook. You can delegate it to an accountant. But the accountant can't just come in and presume to handle your checkbook. So now we already know our ancestors did not delegate such activity to anybody. So we asked them as a strategy, please produce it. Because, see, once you ask and you put it in writing and they don't produce it, you move on to your next step. You don't trip. Oh, well, why won't you give it to me? Then they say, well, he just didn't get it. So let me send him to this office and tell him to ask them. So they said, well, go down the street around the corner to John and ask him. He got it. And what do? Because we don't understand the strategy. We go down the street and around the corner and ask John. But then I called John and said, look, a fool is coming look, a national is coming. He don't even know what time it is. So you do whatever you want to. So then John sees you, and John says, okay, we'll go downstairs and around the corner to the back door in the alley, two streets over, and ask George. And what do? We do the same. We do. And they be like, oh, these people just dumb.
like, okay.
Show them at George's door. He didn't even go home and do no studying. He got time to waste. See, I'm going to tell you, I got time to waste. That's why I put a certified stamp on it and put it through the mail and keep it moving. You don't mail it to me, you ain't got it. End of discussion. And see, we can't show up at the party and then present it. That's why I keep telling these Moors, do not walk in with your paperwork, all right? Mail it. Walk in with your copy. Let them know you coming.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're supposed to show up prepared just like you're demanding they show up prepared.
Mm-hmm.
We come to resolve this issue. I got my paperwork. You got yours? Let's talk. You ain't got it? Well, then you don't have it then. No, don't go.
An American National Constitution.
That's right. Don't go sending Sally, the clerk, to go get it. Because it's in here right now. You ain't got it.
Right.
Now, they done showed it. Exactly. So now they done told you that
they're supposed to have that authority and a delegation of authority in order for them to compel authority. So they should have had it before they did anything.
Exactly. Now let me give you an analogy, because everybody knows this analogy. How many people have been to a restaurant? I'm willing to bet if you've been to one of these, even if it was McDonald's. What has to be on the premises, all right, at all times, in order for them to be doing business? What must be on the premises at all times in order for them to do business?
On the wall, somewhere.
Their license or food certified.
Exactly. Now, they are a business. They must have their oath of office on them at all times in order to pass $1 across the counter. You don't get that. Same principle applies to these county corporations. They cannot sit there and conduct business, and they don't even have the appropriate documentation to prove that they can do what they are doing. And all of us is running all over creation asking Sally, Jane, Sue, John, and Jerry, can I get John's oath of office? Y'all got time to waste. And they playing you. All these brothers, young boys out here talking about, I don't want to be played. They playing you.
Yeah.
They playing you because you don't want to study. Prophet says, study, study, study. Why? So you will have something to think about. Because he said if I could just get you to think, you would mess around and free yourself. But nobody want to study. Everybody want to get something, and they don't want to study. And the sad thing is the majority of Moors out there trying to get worthless pieces of paper called Federal Reserve notes. If we would just shut down all these damn corporations, we'd be free.
Mm-hmm. We sure would, because the corporations are the ones that are accosting and molesting the people in full force. So,
exactly. The Pope can't, the what do you call him? The foreign immigrant, Pope Francis, came over here, and on the Congress floor, he said, land of the free, home of the brave. I'm like, what is he talking about? Ain't that free here? It's supposed to be free. It's supposed to be free. That's why he said it.
That's why
he was
talking
to you Moors. He was talking to all you Moors. He said, this is the land of the free. You got people sleeping on the street. What kind of foolishness is this?
And we ain't nothing but immigrants. What the hell?
We got this going on over in Rome. We got to talk to people. He told you, he was talking to you Moors out there. This is the home of the brave and the land of the free. And y'all people sleeping on the street.
What's it? And you're sleeping on the street, and the people who got you sleeping there are immigrants. This is a crazy picture.
Wait a minute, what did he say? You need not be afraid of these foreigners, Moors.
Yes, that's what he said.
Well, I'm looking forward again to shutting it down. So, but it doesn't even have to be a direct shutdown. It's just a building up something that would eliminate them automatically. So.
Well, that's happening already, really. And what's happening is it's just like they've always been fraud. Always. But it was smoked over, smoke and mirrors being played, right? We're all being played in that respect to not know that. So now that many do know that, they're like, you pull the curtain back on the Wizard of Oz, it's like, oh, shoot. What are they going to do? If they stop, they can't feed the damn selves because they don't produce nothing. So
that's
right. A conundrum here. It's something that's like popping, it's like you busting the blackhead or the pimple. It's got to come to a head. And it's coming to a head, and they're showing you. And as you strip it down, you get to see who you're really dealing with, and you really are dealing with immigrants and fraudulent people, that are in these seats and in corporations, and they've been robbing you. That's what's real. That's So what do? They're going to go down, like they say, the devil's going to the pit, so-called, because we know the devil's the lower self, right? So this stuff we're looking at is lower self-activity. So it's going down to the pit. They want to drag everybody else that it can with them. So we still got people that they can send all around, around the robin and all over the place to do this and do that. Hey, they've got a net out there. They're going to try to drag that all that they can. Go ahead, Sister Anita, I'm sorry.
Yes, But look. Before you say that,
So I just want to add this because it just hit me. So the battle now for us is even a little worse, especially for those who failed to heed these words a while ago. You know, it's really harder, and it's harder on everyone, really. But if you see what it is, then you're equipped to deal with it. But those who have not studied or don't know what's going on, like it says in King, they are really feeling something strange, something harder right now as well. I'm sorry, sis, go ahead.
Yeah, no, but see, what everybody is everybody. I mean, even, not just a flesh and blood being, but the universe. They're all telling us, look, y'all got to wake up and take this back. Y'all the one that's going to have to enforce the law. Yeah. It never said statutes, ordinances, codes, commercial law, okay, trust law, or all of this. People are talking about trust law. You don't even get that the trust, so-called trust, that law that you think is you're following, that is law, ain't nothing but policies and procedures of the United States of America government, and you are a Moor, which means you function under the Great Seal government. Look, as long as your eyes is looking to get something, you're going to miss it. You got to, look, the prophets say you're going to need each other more than ever. That means that we can't be looking at ourselves. Our eyes can't be looking to get for me. I'm going to take care of me. You better check yourself. That's not going to fly, all right? Because that kind of mentality is what got us where we are. So we can't look for somebody else to fix us. We think that this is about getting stuff. It ain't about getting stuff, because our stuff has always been here.
That's right.
It ain't going nowhere. It's always been here. It's about fixing us. So the only one that can fix you is you. And that is so well put, because the prophet said, what? You are rich, my children, you are rich. And people don't understand don't grasp what he really means by that. So you're right, and you said it. If we're still looking to get stuff, like we said earlier. And you know what? There was a skit that I never saw it, but my daughters told me about it, and it's sad, but it's true. Dave Chappelle did a skit where everybody everybody got their so-called reparations money. Everybody got it. Everybody got, all the so-called black people got their reparations money. All right? You know what happened?
They gave it all back.
In less than a year, it was all gone. It was all gone.
Absolutely.
It was all gone. You know why? Because you can't give people pearls if they haven't fixed themselves. And these people are deserving of the pearls because it came from their vast estate. But guess what the people whose vast estate these pearls came from did? They gave it back to the swine.
No, it did.
It's fucking bad.
Well, I know that this whole discourse had me take a quick glance at the Circle 7, Chapter 30 and Chapter 31, and I mean, it all comes together except, again, if the sons cannot step up except to wake the sleeping mom up, I'm having a problem. You hear what I said?
That's right. And that's your problem. Work out. I better go with it.
And I don't usually have problems. I have challenges and solutions.
Well, now that's wonderful that you get to that point, so that we can get back to the point and to the source and to the real mission, uplifting fallen humanity. Because, see, that's what this is really about. The platform is Voice of our National Movement of the World. The mission is to bring the people back to the constitutional fold of government, right, so that they can take their place amongst the affairs of man, right? And the cause is to uplift all humanity. There it is, right there. And those three things right there, when the so-called Black Lives Matter representatives had the opportunity to speak with Hillary Clinton a month or so ago, and then what was the? Did they have a mission or something to that effect? And they didn't have one. And it's sick and sad because that's what this is all about. But of course, you can't have one being black anyway. But they didn't have one, and they said, well, you got to tell black people what to do. And so the mission to cause. The mission of cause and the platform is already existing. So now it's time to walk right into that. The Prophet Noble Jerome laid out as the remedy, all right? And then we'll get there. But unless we do, back to the beginning of this show, well, status is the first issue regarding it. So, declaring it and then, being yourself.
All right, but now, you mentioned the Chapter 2, son, and, I was curious because the Chapter 2 came up the other day, and I know that every time I read it, I feel like I'm missing something. It's concerning where it is said, thrice blessed. And I keep looking for three things, and I don't see them. And maybe you can help me out on that.
The Trinity?
It says no. It's telling Mary and Elizabeth that they are thrice blessed. And I'm looking in the elaboration of the chapter to see.
Well, okay. About. Oh, yeah, go ahead. You can comment on that, Ms., on the thrice blessed. But before you do, let me just say, also, where you see the part where it says the sun shall impart the light, if they have the light.
Uh-huh.
So that means that they can only receive that light as their temple is being built in the womb and their mother being, the womb being what manifests them here. So if they have the light, which comes from their mother. So that's the only way they can impart the light. So that's the accentuation we put there, and that's why we use the terminology. Whenever you hear us say Chapter 2, son, that's what we're talking about in a nutshell. But, Ms., you can go ahead on the thrice blessed.
Yeah, my thing was, we already know blessing is bloodshed, but keeping in mind that the lessons were specifically tailored for those who say they love Jesus and, maybe not understanding what that meant. I don't know. But thrice is three, so that is a trinity. You know what I mean? Like, I would refine that as far as, like, it's a divine trinity for whatever reason, opposed to the etymology of blessed, because I know that's going to be said, and I think you can add on to that. But
the bloodshed is when you're in the womb.
Right.
That's when you're blessed. You're blessed because that whole activity there with the egg and the explosion and the blood, the shed to you to form you through your mother. That is actually blessing, and the only time that you're blessed, the rest is called grace because it's physical, which means it's form, so therefore it's grace. So you say you're grace, and you are graced, because the blessed, again, as you said, attaching to bloodshed, is, again, in your mother's womb. So submitting to the will of Allah and all that, it already happened. But go ahead and continue.
No, I was just saying, and I said this before, but this is just my thoughts on that particular subject of Chapter 2 in the part that he was speaking about. as far as where it says that you may esteem yourselves thrice blessed, for you are chosen mothers of long-promised sons who are ordained to lay a solid rock, a sure foundation, stone on which the temple of the perfect man shall rest. So right there, fam, is where you really need to analyze the cover of the 101. You know what I mean? Like she's sleep. You feel what I'm saying? But he's saying that these are mothers, you know, that are chosen for long promised sons, because what? You go back to even Aboriginal culture everywhere. We all know it goes like this. The males plow the field and the women plant the seeds in the earth. Not to say women can't. I'm not saying women can't. My reference is, if you just look, for example, in Iroquois, North our Moroccan tribe, right? Or North American tribe of Asiatics. That was the way they got down. The sons the sons plowed the field and the mothers planted with a certain energy that only she can make manifest. You dig what I'm saying? That's something totally different. But with the fact that we do the certain solid work, as Cujo was saying earlier, you know what I mean? Writing writs, and I was correlating with construction, all of these things. What the message here is that, and keep in mind the cover of the 101s, the sure foundation is the stone that Noble Drew Ali has his foot on, and has the mother there with him. And we was just to lay the solid rock so that she could rest, because it says number 11, they are long promised sons who are ordained to lay a solid rock, a sure foundation stone on which the temple of the perfect man shall rest. So while she sleeps, that's the temple, that's the foundational stone. So it's just about building, and as was said earlier, you know, women waking up, you know, this is the true key. It is an undeniable fact that, you know, that foundation, this is what Noble Drew Ali was trying to bring for a nation, because he already knew the fact, and he said it in chapter 1, you know, or make sure we have reference to this chapter, that the child is as perfect as the mother is, and that, you know what I mean? So, like, it's for her, she has, and that's all we there for. I mean, even though she's the source of everything, don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying that's what it is. Like, that's what you're supposed to do, man. Like, that's the construction site. Going back to the construction site, foundation, notices, all of these things. This is the construction site. Let me not say she should be on, but it would be great if she was woke up to it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I ain't trying to say what nobody should do. I ain't that one. Yeah. But I'm just saying.
But
you know what I mean?
But you know, it still sounds as though, although she sweeps, she is still the perfect man.
Right.
That's what it sounds like.
It's the distinguishment right there.
Humanity. Listen, they say that Hiram got hit in the head, right? I mean, it's all that's really the picture of the 101s as well, because Hiram is really a woman. If you really do some study, you find that to be true.
Right.
When they say that the child is as perfect as the mother, I just wanted to correlate that as to why in national, common, and international law, the condition of the child is determined by the mother. That all correlates. And so they set that situation where, you know, with that child support crap and stuff, right? So now you got sons thinking that, you know, they have some right they do not have regarding the child, and it's all mixed up because it's not his fault. It's buying into that which we should not be buying into. Period. You know.
Yeah. And may I add real quick before we go on, just one last thing. in quoting number 11 of chapter 2, I just wanted to add on to finish it where it says, stone on which temple of the perfect man shall rest. It ends with a temple that shall never be destroyed. And if you look at it, he's bringing her to that foundation. So that's what he was trying to do in that essence. And with that, I yield the floor. That's all I wanted to add on was the finishing part.
Chapter 2, sons. Those are the ones. We're going to do a rap. Chapter 2, sons. Those are the ones. It's got to come from her.
It's like 9 minutes after 12. We got about 20 minutes left. And thank you so much, Brother Donnell, for your call.
Thank you.
Thanks. Islam.
All righty. We got about 3 more calls. Hopefully we can get them in. Caller 310-406. You're live on the air. Please state your appellation and Northwest of Mexico.
Islam family. This is Isai calling from Northwest of Mexico. And I just wanted to give a few experiences on the air in regards to probate, actually, what the topic was on. And I wanted to link a couple things together that I witnessed a couple of weeks ago. But under court of probate, I was reading along while Sister Ananid was reading. I saw that it said, let's see here, that the court, in some states, the probate court also has jurisdiction of the estates of minors. I went ahead and underlined that, including the appointment of guardians and the settlement of their accounts of lunatics, habitual drunkards, and spendthrifts. So I decided to go ahead and define these words, and I would definitely like to share them with the family. If it's okay with you, is it okay to go ahead and read them out?
I'll tell you, we got, like I said, we got 20 minutes left, really 15 minutes left, and we got 2 other callers that we need to
I'll
get
make it
to.
quick. Okay, I'll make it quick. These, the lunatics are basically people who aren't in their right mind, and the habitual drunkards, they're just continuously drinking. In Black's Law Dictionary, it mentions that they're more sober than drunk, but definitely are under the influence. And spendthrifts, those who spend their money unwise. And I was thinking of, or I realized a couple of things that have been going on where the programming in the music and in television kind of program this into you so you can become it. And it seems as if, of course, everything is connected, but they're trying to put you under the wardship or under this type of jurisdiction, which is a court of probate. But it was interesting to see. I had gone out with an unconscious Moor, or with a Moor, and I saw that there was a gathering of policy enforcers, and I directed my way towards them. I asked them, basically I introduced myself, and I asked them a question in regards to how they were standing or the energy that they were bringing. I asked them if they were expecting a large confrontation or a big event this night, and they said, no, we're expecting a very small one. And I'm like, okay, so you guys are expecting a confrontation then, any type of confrontation, or you want a confrontation to occur. And they said, yeah, we're just trying to make sure that everything's okay. And I said, okay, great. They repeated a couple of times saying, well, we're here to protect. We're just here to protect. And I was like, excuse me, so what happened to the other half? What happened to the other part that said you need to serve? these policy enforcers, all European, they were all just kind of chuckled, and the main guy, I believe he was a sergeant there because he was the one doing all the talking. He said, we don't serve here, and he meant it. When I looked at him in the eye, he kind of broke out of character, and he said that this department doesn't serve. This is a different department. And I just said, that sounds very interesting. Can I have your name and your badge? The guy started laughing. I said, okay, that's fine. I walked away, and one of the guys, knowing what it is that I was speaking, he bid his farewells. I looked back, and he gave me one, I'd say a Masonic symbol, and he knew exactly where I was coming from and what I meant. But that same night is when I noticed that lots of Moors are the main ones that are in these places who are constantly giving up, spending their money, getting going under the influence, and always out of their minds. I realized that this was a sickness. This was something that was being allowed by these foreigners. So, okay, just to close it off, probate, definitely. Make sure you check yourself so that when you're in certain places, you are not acting within, or you are not within the jurisdiction of these places that you have already studied. And all these three things that are named within this definition of court of probate, make sure that you're not one of them. And if you are, recognize it and start to change it, start to become a person of nobility. So this is definitely a great show tonight, and I would have never looked up probate if it weren't for you guys. So Islam, thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Again, I've enjoyed it.
I have to say to what you said, it sounds like to me you're saying what Father said. He said, I've been traveled through the South, and I see that it's the actions of my own people that are causing their problems. That's what I got out of what you're saying, is that, you're right. They're like, what do you want to call them? Leeches, like, all right, we're going to go over here because there's a bunch of drunkards, and we know we're going to catch them when they leave, or they're going to do something that's stupid or drunkard or whatever like that, and we're going to haul them down, serve them there, like he said, and we're going to make some finance off of them. That is exactly what they do. Now, you will see more and more of that. You will see more and more of that now because they're not making the same amount of finance off of the people, only because the people are waking up on other ends of the arena. So what they're going to, like going into these so-called courtrooms and, dealing with it, they're not just raking it in like they used to. So you're going to see more and more of those types of what you just saw. They're going to have to go, instead of the honey coming to them, they got to go find it. And they've analyzed already where they can find it. And if you're drunk or whatever like that, or doing these things, you're prime steak on the table, for the consumption. So we really can.
And to add on top of that, that is the reason why they can't think right. Their focus and their ability to think is affected highly by this solution, and it all just adds to you falling under the jurisdiction of these unlawful jurisdictions. So let's study.
Yes. Thanks for that observation. That's wonderful. I got you.
All right. Thank you so much for your call.
You guys have a wonderful night.
You too.
Indeed. And just one thing to add on to that, just real brief, also the probate court with child support too.
Yes.
Chancery and probate. You know what I mean? They do those two right there for the child support and that goes back to lack of nationality. I just want to add that on.
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right, caller 513-295. You're live on the air. Please state your appellation at Northwest Maxim. It's 20 after 12, so you got like 5 minutes.
Islam, this is the Leitra family.
Islam.
Hey, family. I will just be very brief. I had a few things to say, but I just wanted to kind of go back to, because I heard one of the brothers say that he was turned down, his identification or whatnot. And I know you all spoke about the energy as well. But we also have to know that, just off recognition that those things are like violations of like the First and the Fourth Amendment. And so sometimes you don't have to waste a lot of your energy. But what you could do is you could contact the Department of Labor for some of these corporations, because they have to be in check. And I know one of my cousins, she had actually called this company who had tried to force her to have a Social Security number. And even after they said they didn't discriminate regardless of your national origin. And when you ask somebody for a Social Security number, that is discriminating, especially if they don't have one and then you say they don't qualify. So, I told her to contact the Department of Labor, which she did, and she found out that this company actually received federal money. So, and so it's just a lot that we can really do. So even when you say cut the head off, if you just knew like who the CEO of the company was, they are allowing their agent to act on their behalf to violate you. So they are responsible for their children, if you will, behavior. So you have to go to mother, if you will, of the company, and take care of your business there, and just really being informed. And like Sister Anna E said, and I know I've said it to some other Moors out here, business is the name of the game. And I know we don't want to look at it like that, but we must understand the hierarchy of organizations and how they just do things. And so once you realize who to go after, that's when you cut the head off. And a lot of times if you just sue the company, say not for finances, you can just shut the company down, because they're just totally out of, they're totally in violation with the law, with the codes that they're supposed to abide by. So you can just shut them down by just contacting the Department of Labor, Department of Justice.
That's right.
And you'll be surprised that, once they launch an investigation and they find that these people, just their oath of office isn't even in compliance with the Constitution, which is Article 6, which they also ref code. They have it as a U.S. Code 28-533 or something like that, 5333. You can see how they, because that would be like considered in harmony with the Constitution. Their oath of office are in violations. You can just hit them on so many different levels if you just really, like you say, do your due diligence, study, understand, the name of the game, and and go for the jugular. But know that the success doesn't always have to come in notes. We could just shut the corporations down, period.
Yes.
Yes, that's the name of the game, right? Yeah. That's beautiful, Alicia. That is exactly right. And because, you were saying, that's like she made an analogy, the CEO of a corporation as the CEO. So Alicia said, let's consider that the mother and report about their employees or children. And you were saying, and before the one thing that CEOs hate is to get those letters, from people. So
and they know that they're liable. They're liable. That's why they know they're liable. That's why they hate to get those letters from the people, because they know that they're the ones going down. And if you don't believe me, let me tell you, I know a lot of people probably saw this movie and didn't even get it. If you watch this Medea Witness Protection Program, something like that. It sounds crazy, but watch the movie. Watch it, because in the first 15 minutes of the movie, it tells you who goes down, and it's usually the CEO, the CFO, or the COO. Now, usually it will fall on the COO unless the CFO is dumb. Then the CEO will pass it off on the CFO and leave them holding the bag. And that is exactly what they showed you in the Medea Witness Protection Program. It was just so hilarious, so to speak, that they literally put that on there, and I know everybody was ha-ha-ing over it, and they missed it. But it was there.
Missed it. And if I can say this really quickly, because I know we are pressed for time, and I don't know where to get through, but I wanted to just also add, just even on that note, my cousin had also realized, like, after the Pope had came, how John Boehner stepped down, and then, like, the CEO of, like, I think his company is like Ralph Lauren. He stepped down from his own company and just went back to being like the designer. So you have to pay attention to these people that are moving from these head positions, because they're going to put somebody else in there, probably an Asiatic a lot of times, because we're so thirsty to get, recognition, so that we can take the fall for it. And if we don't realize that, because they did sort of the same thing with Barack, if you will. They're like, oh, okay, that's the CEO of the corporation. Let's step down. Let's put somebody that's colored, because they'll think that he's black, and he'll take all the blame for it, and we'll just, get all the attention off of us. And so it's pretty much like the same thing that takes place, but we just have to just pay attention. And for those of us who read the Biblio text, it said that seek and ye shall find, and it said the truth shall set you free. So it didn't say anything else, but just those are just some principles and just some things that we can just kind of go forth with. And maybe we'll be better off, but just do your homework and study. So, Islam family, thank you for the conversation. Love you all.
All right. And, she's right. I just want to add that she's right. There are a lot of Asiatics are getting these jobs, and they don't hear nothing. I finally got a job. What you talking about? They don't even understand they've been put in the place to take the fall.
Islam, yes. Well, that concludes our broadcast. We have like 3 minutes left. Make sure and check us out tomorrow for Moor's Heritage and History School live near Harlem Corporation at Northwest Maxim at 7:30. Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure and get into that Black's Law Dictionary and start looking up things, because you will be absolutely surprised what they mean. And I'm telling you, while I was in there looking up probate, I saw some other things I will be going back to look up just for curiosity. But, that's what study is. So this is Sister Anna E. We'll see you back here next Tuesday, same time, same bad channel. Along with my co-host, Mizraim Aleph Il, RVBey, Pujo Adwa El, who has already signed off. Peace and love to everyone. Thank you.
Love, man. All right.
All right.
We're going to change it up. We're going to play a little something different.
Awesome.